And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss updates on student loans.
You know, Victor, one thing that has been making the rounds lately is how far the Nigerian Education Loan Fund has come.
Absolutely, Ademola, and for a scheme that kicked off not too long ago, Nelfund has really made some significant moves. We're talking over 86 billion naira already disbursed to students across the country.
Absolutely, that's right. 47.6 billion naira went straight to schools for tuition, and another 38.7 billion naira was paid directly to students for upkeep. That's a lot of support hitting where it matters.
Indeed, and it is changing lives, really. You hear stories of students who were almost dropping out, now back in class and focused again. That's something.
Yeah, that's something. And the momentum isn't slowing down. The application portal for the 2025-2026 academic sessions opens tomorrow. That is October 23rd. And so the timing couldn't be better for a progress check.
Exactly. And today we are taking a closer look indeed at how Nelfund has come. The progress, the challenges, and what lies ahead for students hoping to tap into the scheme.
So, if you have been wondering how the process really works, or whether you qualify, stay tuned. You will get all the answers right here.
So this is Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. I am Victor, as welcome.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. Good morning, and good to have you join us. Well, this is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Before we begin our conversation this morning on update of student loans, here is a background report put together by correspondent Ibrahim Dan Hamidu.
Every nation rises on the strength of how it treats education, not as charity, but as an investment in its future. That's the idea behind the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFund, quietly reshaping how students across the country access financial support for their studies. The fund's online loan portal is now open for the 2025-2026 academic session from October 23, 2025 to January 31, 2026. And this time, institutions have a key role to play. They were required to submit their student data for the 2024-2025 academic session by November 22, 2024. The first crucial step toward transparency and to keep the process clean and fair for all. For those still waiting from last session, Nelfund says efforts are ongoing to clear pending 2024-2025 applications. Proof that the system is learning, improving, and correcting along the way. One big update though, upkeep loans are now tied to each academic session. Once the session ends, payments stop automatically. That policy, according to Nelfund, is to prevent double disbursements and ensure that funds go only to genuine beneficiaries. Across campuses, the mood is mixed. Some are relieved, others cautious. But one thing is clear, this is more than a loan scheme. It's a test of trust, governance, and discipline. For both the government and the students, it seeks to empower. Experts say success will depend not just on funding, but on how honestly institutions, parents, and students uphold their end of the social contract. Because Nelfund is not just about paying tuition, it's about proving that Nigeria can build a system where opportunity is earned, fairness is enforced, and education truly becomes the nation's equalizer. Today on Good Morning Nigeria, guests in the education sector will discuss how this new phase can sustain hope, deliver fairness, and strengthen governance across our higher institutions.
All right, many thanks, Ibrahim Dan Hamidu, for that backgrounder. Now joining us here to discuss updates on student loans, let me make welcome first Akitunde Sawyer, who is Managing Director, Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFund. It's a pleasure, as always, to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
The pleasure's always mine. You look like you slept well.
I did, thank you. And also joining us here is Professor Andrew Haruna. Professor Haruna is a Secretary, Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities and President, Nigerian Academy of Letters. Glad you could join us on the program, Prof.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right. Well, joining us now via Zoom from Zaria, Kaduna State, is Rashidat Mohammed Nasil. She's a student of the Department of Political Science, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, Kaduna State. She is the current Vice President, Faculty of Social Sciences, and also a student advocate interested in female participation in the society. It's a pleasure to have you join us on this discussion, Nasil.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right. Also, another student still joining us via Zoom from Zaria, Kaduna State. This time is Comrade Sule Sani Sule. Is a youth activist and student leader. Comrade Sule Sani Sule, it's good to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. So let's kickstart our conversation by going straight to the MD, Mr. Sawyer, so that you can explain to us what is the current status of the NELFund loan disbursement now, and how many students have benefited so far from the program. We know the figure we had is over 759,000. So maybe you can be specific on this.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, let me commend the excellent report that your team have put together. Very insightful, very practical, and I think for me it spoke to things that go beyond the disbursement. It spoke to things like trust in governance, showing that Nigeria can do things properly. I think these are some of the conversations that we need to begin to inject into our national discourse. But to your question, so far we've had 846,000 applications since the 24th of May 2024, all online. We've had 581,000 people who are and can properly be described as beneficiaries. Beneficiaries are people whose fees have either been paid by the NELFund or whose fees and upkeep have been delivered to them as well. 231 institutions have benefited. In other words, the throughput and this 581,000 students I just talked about attend 231 institutions in Nigeria. These institutions are generally, or specifically, should I say, universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education that are owned by either federal or state governments. We have disbursed to date 61 billion naira in institutional fees to the 231 institutions I just mentioned, and 46 billion in upkeep. This is the 20,000 naira that we're paying monthly to students. So in other words, on your behalf, on behalf of Nigerian people, because of the stroke of the pen and the vision of the president, we've been able to benefit Nigerians to the tune of 107 billion in cash terms. But there are other benefits, and we can discuss those.
Okay, what are the other benefits you're talking about here?
Well, I think the first thing I should say, the first benefit that this has delivered to Nigerians is the reduction in the dropout rate in institutions.
Okay.
Before the president brought this into play, and one of the things that he was very keen to do is to interrupt the negative process where students start a course. They carry it on for as long as they can struggle to pay. And then as soon as the finances run out, for, in some cases, really unfortunate circumstances, they drop out. Now, if I paint a picture for you, somebody goes to study a course like medicine. They struggle and struggle and struggle. Their parents struggle and struggle and struggle. They go to 4 years into the course, and then something happens, and they have to drop out. Their lives take an entirely different course, regardless of the struggle they put into bettering themselves. So that's one of the key benefits we've seen. The second benefit, I should say, is that it's been known for a long time that the institutions have not had enough investment. They haven't had enough investment because students struggle to pay their fees. I've been to institutions where the management of the institution has had to set up a fund to help students attend. They contribute themselves. They get other people to contribute. This has now put some definitive income source or income stream for the institution so they can plan better. If institutions can plan better, the environment, the learning environment is better for the students. The third thing I would like to say around the benefits for this is that for the first time, this country is really able to inject some of the revenues that we're getting from various sources, whether it's taxation or oil or other things. We're able to inject it right into the bottom of the pyramid of Nigerian society, where the majority of struggling people are. We're injecting these funds, not at the top, to then allow it to trickle down. The funds are injected at the bottom so that people can rise up the pyramid to get to the top themselves. Those are some benefits. We can talk about others.
All right.
Now, 86 billion, being disbursed is something big. But I'm interested in finding out beyond the numbers what metrics NELFund is using to measure the impact of all of these on student retention and graduation, for instance.
Okay, so did you say 86 billion? 108 billion
Okay,
is what we disbursed.
now,
Yes,
okay.
just to make sure that we have the numbers right. So, look, there are other metrics, of course. It's probably too early to begin to talk about graduation rates and the impact we've had on that. I mean, we can look at some data and say how many graduated last year, how many graduated this year. But it's a bit early. We've just closed one session, and many institutions have, staggered session times. So let's not go into data that, won't necessarily tell us a lot. Again, we're teasing out the dropout rates from previous years. So we're going to look at dropout rates for the last 5 years and see what has happened with the year since NELFund was introduced. But again, this is a process where we've got to complete and get all the data sets in so that we can really be sure that what we're delivering in terms of data and statistics are truthful pieces of information, not, propagandist coloration. But I think the most important metric, which is almost impossible to measure, is hope. Okay? So today, if you are in a secondary school and your plan was to exit secondary education at the end of your secondary education and go and find something to do, today there's hope that you can actually go on and get yourself into a tertiary institution and therefore better your life constructively for the future. You can't measure hope. Okay, and I know that, what we've got here, and this program is under the Renewed Hope agenda. We're really bringing the hope alive because there are lots of people in this country who are now going to be able to say, we have somebody in a university. Nobody in my family has ever been to a polytechnic. Nobody has been able to achieve the opportunity to go to a college of education. We are bringing real hope to Nigerians, and that's why this must be sustainable. You can't measure hope.
All right. All right. Thank you. I understand that we have also been joined by Professor Umar Pate, who is Vice Chancellor of Federal University, Kashere in Gombe State. And Professor Pate is also President of the Society of Nigerian Broadcasters. Prof, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria yet again.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigeria.
All right. Professor Andrew Haruna, what's your assessment of NELFund's strides to date?
Particularly in a society like ours, where trust is a major issue. It's difficult now to measure just within 2 years of what has been going on. But one thing I can say is this. In the speech and also in the report made, trust, social contract between government and her own citizens So this is the time I can see the government is interested in our own citizens, and which is the youth, the young people. I, as a lecturer, though not scholarship, but something is a loan. It tells us that if you collect the loan, you must also be able to bring it back, because you are going to be the leader tomorrow. Secondly, the government is also telling us, look, you also got to be responsible to manage the resources of the country, which is a common wealth, not a private wealth. So from this direction, I can say there is a big success, and I can measure, well, the director said, the DG said, it's difficult to measure hope. Well, I am hopeful. If we keep to this social contract, we are going to raise up a generation of young men and women who have actually benefited from the taxpayers' money, from whatever sources the money came from, and to say, look, I also have to inject it either by cash or by my the services I will render. Secondly, you see, we within the university, there are certain capitals which we have. One, we have human capital, which is our biggest asset. And these are two different ways. You have the lecturers, who are the faculty staff, and you also have the students. Now, if you find struggles for a very long time is between the faculty staff and government. So when you introduce something focusing on the younger generation, definitely you will hear some suspicion. Okay, because they will say, have they taken care of the social responsibility of the faculty? So this is something else. We are talking about the positive impact or the how we can assess what NELFAN has done. So from my own point of view now, one of the capital asset within the university is that the students, for the first time, government is looking at them and trying to enter into an agreement, or they have entered an agreement, and telling them, if you meet up this agreement, you are the future leaders of tomorrow. And we can see a change in attitude. I only hope that, now this is where the hope is, it will be sustained, because sustainability is critical.
Sustainability is very critical. Thank you so much for your opening remarks there, Professor Haruna. Let's join our Zoom guest, as Professor Pate now, who is the Vice Chancellor. And because we have raised the issue of trust here, the issue of trust, transparency, and accountability. Let's look at the management of this fund that has been disbursed to the various universities now. How are you addressing the various allegations of fund diversion, ensuring there is transparency in the management of this fund?
Thank you very much. Once again, good morning, Nigeria. Well, the issue of managing and ensuring accountability of funds given to us by NELFON, at least in my own university, is straightforward. All the resources that we have received, we have appropriately disbursed them to those who are the beneficiaries, and the one that should go to the university, we have utilized the money properly. And at a point, if you could remember, there were issues raised about the management of the funds by a number of bodies and organizations. At a point, they raised an issue, and at another point, someone somewhere, a very big office, apologized that there were errors in the figures being mentioned. And not only that, they followed up with interventions or invitations from the agencies in charge of investigating issues relating to misappropriation of resources. Like my own university, we were invited by the ICPC. We compiled our report and submitted to them. At the end of the day, we were told that yes, everything is okay with us. We were also invited by the minister, where specifically we were also asked to account. We gave our own explanation. Again, we were cleared. And I think the National Assembly also at a point intervened. But on all occasions, we have been cleared, because the route is very straightforward. You have been given money with names of students who should have access to these monies. All we needed to do was just to transmit the money to the students. That is for the one that belong to them. And for the one that belong to the university, we rightly put them in our own bursaries. So nothing more. As I'm talking to you now, in University of Kashere, we have about 8,650 beneficiaries that have received these loans. And we have just reopened our university, though there is a short strike, and we are hoping that the strike will be over by the end of this week. And we are just expecting Nelfon to come and also continue what they have been doing. Not only that, I also need to mention that we had auditors from the Office of the Accountant General who came and also looked at our books. Again, though we have not received the report formally, but I can assure you our books are okay. The only complaint from the universities, and I've heard it from my colleagues also, is that Nelfon is sending these monies, universities are using the monies to disburse to students, and we are also incurring expenses like traveling to Abuja on daily basis to answer one question or the other, or traveling to other places, doing the paperwork and all of that. But there is no single kobo to help in servicing all of this thing that we have been talking about. Apart from that, I don't have any other complaint on what Nelfon has been doing. Our students are really, really appreciative. And as I'm talking to you now, many students are yet to resume, even though, like I've said, we are on strike, because they are waiting to hear from Nelfon. And the hope and expectation is huge. And I pray that Nelfon will act fast so that they pay the universities for the students to just come in and register. Otherwise, it's going to prolong our semesters, and we are going to experience some delays. But otherwise, I can assure you that things are okay, and this is one of the most fundamental and most impactful policies of government in recent times on our students. I remember in my last convocation lecture, I said it, and I urge state governments to also emulate what the federal government is doing with Nelfon. It's very, very clear. The bureaucracy and all the long talk is so short. While in some states, you have a whole year students struggling to apply just for scholarship, not even to get, but just to apply, and then verification, and then this, and then that. And at the end of the day, they don't get anything. But you could see the federal system is so straightforward. They link up with the university, the students apply, the universities verify, and then the next thing, they get their payments. And the payment for now has been regular. So I hope our states will also emulate. It doesn't take much. If the federal government could do it, they could also take some resources to be able to do it, so that the universities could be full of life. The communities where these universities are located are also direct beneficiaries, because the students could feed better, the students could spend more money, and then on our campuses we have more peace and tranquility, because everything is okay with the students.
Right. Professor Party, thank you very much. I heard you loud and clear. Logistics is an issue on one hand. And of course, state governments should also throw their hat in the ring. I remember earning bursary as a student myself. But let's get to Rashidat Mohammed Nasir, who is a student of political science at the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria. Rashidat, good to have you on the program. Are you there? Now,
yes,
as a student,
thank you so much.
Yes, as a student leader, I'm wondering, are students, what are students saying on campus, regarding these government disbursements, and hope skepticism or confusion didn't set in along the line?
It has always been appreciation. So far, so good. They've always appreciated the president for this policy, since it's a very wonderful policy, and it has helped them to achieve their aim of studying and finishing a whole session with nearly zero issues until the almost ending of the session around June, July, August, like that, where Nelfon just stopped sending upkeep and all. Although we hope that this time around, as Professor Umaru Pate said, that NELFON will be able to disburse this loan on time so that we won't have an issue of students already losing hope and paying their fees before NELFON disbursing the fees and causing a whole lot of confusion between the students and schools. You understand? I think that's all we appreciate, and it's good.
How accessible is the portal to students, really? Especially those who don't have sufficient digital literacy. How accessible is the portal?
Well, it's clear and it's very accessible. If a student don't have an Android phone or a smartphone, they can easily access this portal through a cafe or so. Since the link has been shared worldwide, nationwide, sorry, the link was shared, the NELFON link, where you just tap on the link, you get to see, okay, you sign in, I guess, you create your own profile, you add in your matriculation number, your NIN, your bank verification number, your account number, and so what have you, whatever they require there. It doesn't need a long process. And after that, the portal, they will verify you. They'll verify you. After verifying you, after some days, then they'll approve your loan. That's if they are very sure from the school and the NELFON our headquarters that, yes, you are a student of that institution. Although there were some cases of graduates still applying for that loan. So I don't know if NELFON can actually be very careful when checking this whole details that students use to apply the loan. So we don't have cases of graduates coming back to the university and demanding refund for session they've paid for.
Okay, thank you very much, Rashidat, for that. We'll get back to you during the course of this conversation, but let's get to Sule Sani now. Sule, who is also a student leader and also an activist. I know that the MD is noting all the various challenges that you have raised, but let's get Sule's, feelings or experience concerning applying for this loan. What challenges did you face while applying for this NELFON loan, and if the challenges have been addressed?
Thank you very much. So actually, as Rashida earlier mentioned, the application of this loan is a seamless process, and it is very accessible even to the people who have less digital skills and knowledge, because it is something that you can do on your own, and is something that is self-explanatory. So what the only challenge is that usually most of the students face is in a situation whereby they made some mistakes, or they need to edit or do something. There is the process that is called, actually the basic process is for you to raise a ticket. So most of the students are complaining that they raise ticket on and on and on, but the service delivery in terms of responding to their complaints is very poor actually. I can remember that the DG came to Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, and we were together, and so many questions were asked. But up to now, as I am speaking to you, most of the students that have issues, their issues have not been addressed. So this is the basic challenges that most of the student faces. And also, I think this issue of academic calendar is another thing of a thing, because most of the universities have different academic calendar. And this is something that the NELFON is supposed to check, because as I'm speaking to you, I'm a graduate, but the NELFON that I received last year was for the last session, because for ABU, this current session we graduated is 24-25, but the one we received was 23-24. And this brings us to what Rashida is saying, like somebody will graduate, and after his graduation, he will still be receiving this NELFON and be battling with issues of refund. So I believe the NELFON have to collaborate with the students and and the university management, because all the universities are not going on the same lane. Their academic calendar differs due to so many issues or challenges. So, Gaskia, the basic challenge with this Nel Fund issue is this issue of service delivery in terms of complaint and in terms of where some students have issues. Some students have been complaining that they have registered. Some of them have received their upkeeps, but they have not received their university payment. Some of them have received the tuition payment, but they have not received their upkeeps. You understand? Some have this issue of email. Some have issue of account and other things like that. So, but from the other side, as it is rightly mentioned by the previous speakers, NEL Fund has go a long way in helping students. It has restored hope in the students, and actually it is a very good initiative. But we know that it is just the starting point, and actually everything that starts must have some challenges, which we hope that the NEL Fund will address it. Yes.
All right. Sule, thank you very much for your contribution so far. We'll get back to you in the course of this conversation. Let me get back here in the studio and with Mr. Sawyer. Now, you heard Professor Pate. His was logistics. What they do is necessary for the smooth running of the process, which, if they pull back from, will create hitches. That's on one hand. And the students have talked about vetting, being sure that the right people are accessing the loans at the right time. How do you react to these?
Okay, so first of all, let me thank Professor Pate for his very important comments. I think that it is fair to say that in trying to establish transparency and trust, and in trying to prevent misappropriation or diversion, naturally, we have taken a very strong interest in where the money gets to. The investigative agencies, the ICPC, and the EFCC in particular, who gave us 50 billion naira, are especially interested in the disbursement process, where the funds arrive, did they arrive, how did they arrive, did they get there in full? So they carried out their own independent investigations, not just into the institution, but into us who are disbursing the funds. This is a very, very important foundation for a program that we want to be sustainable. And what has happened is that during the course of these investigations, many of our people have been invited for interviews, for questioning, for explanations that the investigative agencies are struggling to understand. They've done the same at the institutions. It's been very draining on time. It's been very draining on logistics for these institutions. They're having to spend funds to go and attend interviews. Even on the refund side, they're having to refund monies to students. You can't refund money free. There's a charge. Now, we didn't build this into our budget at the beginning, but we recognize this challenge. And what we're doing now is we're saying, okay, we're going to, in our new budget, we're going to build in fees or recoverable expenses for the institutions. The institutions, technically, are acting as agents because they're acting on our behalf. They're not being paid. And we have to have these honest conversations. We have to recognize that they have their own budgets, they have institutions to run, and they can't be taking line items from somewhere else to cover some of these logistics. Otherwise, they're misappropriating. So we need to look at these together, understand what the quantum of logistics, the quantum of administrative costs or charges are, reconcile, and move forward together. So I thank Professor Pate. I think they're very reasonable comments. On the side of the students, I think the question was around vetting. So, we inherited a system where we had to literally hit the ground running. Yeah. All the students who apply for these loans do not apply together. They apply almost randomly. When we kick this off, we open the portal for an endless period of time so that as many people who need these loans can come and apply. At some point, we have to say, stop, we collate everything, we put up a list, and then we send it to the institution to say, these are the people, we've never met them, who claim that they're in your institution. Your data suggests that they are. Are they really there? Are they still there? And then when the institution comes back to us, we sign off and then we disperse. Now that process, because it's staggered across institutions, it's staggered across when students apply.
Sessions.
There's, it just doesn't, it isn't an aligned process. We're trying to bring it all together and align it. And again, we need the support of students, and what you're going to see us doing now is having windows for applications. A start date, like the 23rd of October, we're reopening. 31st of January, we're going to close, so that we can concentrate the minds of the people who want to apply. That this is not just an open thing. We left it open initially because it was new, and we wanted to make sure that we caught as many people as possible into the process. But the process will get better. The institutions will suddenly start to realize at some point that these sessions need to be aligned. As we get away from the era of strikes and people being off, institutions being closed for upwards of a year, we're going to move into a new era where, as you see in some other countries abroad, where there's some alignment. So this will naturally get better, and we're going to try to catch up with it. Another issue that I picked up from the student leader in Zaria, the gentleman, around, I think he was talking about the speed of payments, but back to the institutions, or to the students. The reality of it is that we have a totally electronic process that we run. At the end of that process, we need the institutions to sign off. Some do it very quickly, some don't. But what I can tell you, the good news I can tell you is that in the past we used to batch and send the list to the institutions. Today, it is uploaded automatically. So they can literally have an application verification today, approve that one, yes, and then send it back to us. And then we still have to do some degree of batching so that we can pay in bulk rather than individually to the institutions. The other issue that he raised, and I'm really sorry, is that he talked about tickets not being responded to. So when the students apply, they have certain issues, they put in the wrong account number, or they put in some data that's not quite accurate. That doesn't allow the process to work for them. They then have to raise a ticket. A ticket means that they raise a complaint, we respond to the complaint. Again, I have to tell you, he's absolutely correct. Our response rates to tickets are less than desirable. But we've got to make some investments. We've got to make some investments in call centers. We've got to make some investment in human capital to ensure that we can respond. We've got to train people to be able to respond to what is effectively a customer service requirement. So he's right. But you're going to see these things improve. The great thing is that we're paying students today. We're paying students, we're trying to pay them on time, and we're trying to pay them in full, and we restored this hope that takes people off the roads, takes people away from crime, takes people from wanting to travel abroad. Some of the metrics you're talking about, which you'll see later, take people away from mental illness out of frustration of not being able to go to school. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, MD. Now, I just want to ask the students that are eligible for this NEL form, why are private universities not included in this, in this loan scheme? Because some have argued that, well, their parents are well off, and sometimes they get to the universities and something happened, an unfortunate incident happened, maybe the parents lose their jobs and all that, they now find it difficult to continue to pay their fees. Would they be eligible, to apply for this loan? Is this loan going to be extended to private universities?
Okay, so the question you've asked me is a matter of law at the moment. So what the law says is that this loan can only be given to students who are attending government-owned institutions. So even with the best will in the world, with the greatest magnanimity on our part as the NEL Fund management, we must stick within what the law has provided for. Now, what do I think? I've had some conversations with His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, about this, and his view is that these loans should be accessible and available to all Nigerians, regardless of whether they're going to a public or state-owned institution or private institution. That's going to require an amendment of the law. Okay. I think the reason that we didn't have it in there in the first place is because of the limits we have on funding. If we're paying every institution, public or private, for every student, giving loans, it basically means that we're going to run out of funds very quickly. using a very blunt instrument to determine where the need is, we find that the need is mainly in students who are in publicly owned institutions, because that's where the fees are lowest. We find ourselves sometimes in a situation where we're saying, do we pay, particularly in the public institutions who have high fees, do we pay for these 10 students? Because the fees for these 10 students will cover 600 somewhere else. So it's an ethical dilemma for us, okay? And our view is that this intervention by the president is to reach as many people as possible, not to create a new elite in education. Now, I'll tell you something else that is really important for me to say. The private institutions are not being discriminated against. Many of them came into being because there were issues in the past with strikes and with public institutions not delivering their best. I think it's important that they are protected. I think it's important that they are supported, because I think they have a major role to play in this country in the education of our citizens.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Professor Haruna, I'm just wondering while he spoke, is there a risk of universities increasing fees just because there's a, seamless stream of payment from government? And how do we strike that balance between affordability and access?
Well, it's a good question you raised, particularly when I listen to all these conversations. Now, as the Secretary General Committee of Vice Chancellors, you see, I'm dealing with 298 universities, from 76 from federal, which is a public institution, and then 65 state, again, public institutions. Then you have 159 private. And I move among them, so I'm married to 3 husbands, if I might say so.
And that you are a man.
Yeah, well, and I am a man, and this is my dilemma. And I travel a lot abroad, and I interact again with the students, Nigerian students studying abroad. Just at the weekend, I came back from Russia, and I was speaking on education, cooperation, partnership with Nigeria. Now, with public institutions, it's a matter of law, as the DG said. For anything to happen, we have to wait until the law is amended. We have these issues with TED Fund also. ASU fought for it, and all this has been promulgated by law. Private institutions who are also contributing to the manpower development of the country also need to be looked at. But this has been already settled until the law is amended. What is critical here to me is having a uniform calendar in the educational system. If we have that stabilized and the funds are disbursed and the logistics managed, which unfortunately, I must say loudly, because I speak also for my vice chancellors, government should understand there is a difference between a public institution and an MDA. Okay, we have our own culture. This kind of logistics have to be addressed differently. A vice chancellor is to think for the university, academic and both administrative, not to be running to Abuja to answer issues in different government circulars and things like that. But I'm happy NELFAN, in their own case, they are looking at it. So what I would say at this point, NELFAN has opened a dialogue, and we in the universities, we are also watching carefully. We give them all the support, all the orientation to our own vice chancellors to make sure that things go seamless.
But
Okay.
you haven't, I'm sorry, Mala. I asked, is there a risk that fees will be increased simply because government is now paying?
Well, government institutions don't pay fees. They don't pay fees.
They pay tuition?
Tuition, well, as far as I know...
I mean, what now fund disburses is what I'm talking about. Are you going to now increase simply because
They can
you are
apply for
getting
loan?
Well, I don't think that should be the case.
Okay.
But because even if with the amount of money NELFAN is paying, I don't think that it will even subsidize much for the universities unless they want to come with a program in which they want to simply address the financial or the funding problems within the universities. So I don't see any risk of increasing fees by the vice chancellors. But definitely they will increase, there's likelihood they will increase what we call municipal charges. By municipal charges, they have to pay for cleaning the hostels, the toilets, the environments, which their overhead does not cover. They have to pay for electricity bills, which, the overhead which comes from Accountant General is nothing to write home about. And all this kind of other logistics, they have to fund it, but why would they get the money? The overhead doesn't take care of it. So the tendency is you may find some slight increase in what we call municipal charges. This I expect to happen.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Arena. Let's get to Professor Pate via Zoom now. Professor Pate, we just want to ask you, what exactly, or let me put it this way, how has this fund impacted on the performance of the students lately? You can just let us have that.
Okay, thank you. Let me also speak on behalf of the universities about the question you asked on the probability of fees adjustments on some of the charges in the universities. I don't think simply because we are aware that our students are getting some support from NELFON will ginger us to simply say, okay, let's jack up our charges for some of the items that Professor Andrews mentioned. We also sympathize with our students. It is our wish to see our students live well, and whatever we could do to ensure that our students are comfortable and our students can concentrate on their studies, definitely we will do it. We will not make things harder than what they have always been experiencing. Just like he told you, we have to pay our electricity bills in the hostels. We have to take care of so many other aspects in the clinics, the cleaning services. All these are important things. And looking at the inflationary trend in the country, we are also, or we try to be responsive so that we can deliver the required services. But that does not in any way mean that university can simply arbitrarily just wake up and say, okay, NELFON is giving money, therefore where we are charging 1,000 naira, then we say we are charging 5,000 naira. I don't think any university can do that in this country as of today. Now, going back to the impact of what you have just, of NELFON, the impact is significant on a number of fronts. For the student, at least he can get the required funding support in terms of paying his charges to the universities or colleges, paying his or her own, taking care of his basic needs through the monthly support that the universities give, and a lot more that is on the side of the students. Then if you come to the universities, it is of great significance to us. I've just told you that my university has reopened last week, even though we are on strike, and we are hoping that the strike will be over this weekend. We are now waiting for NELFON to remit the charges for about 850 students. 8,650 students to us. And you can imagine what that will do. One, it saves us the problem of all this prolonging of payment period, prolonging of semesters, and we can properly plan, knowing that NELFON is going to give us this amount of money, which will directly come into our accounts. And all we are going to do is to tell the students that your charges have been paid, and also give NELFON the required receipts. So that makes life easier for all of us in the universities. And on the economy of the surrounding communities, students can comfortably feed themselves. They can pay for some of these petty needs and the communities benefit from all of these payments that students make. So at the end of the day, it also saves the parent or some parents, because I've had cases also where students who are on NELFON refuse to disclose it to their parents that NELFON is supporting them. I have had a number of occasions where I've discussed with parents of lecturers in my university, students whose parents are working in my university and their children are getting these funds, yet the parents don't even know. So I had an encounter and I told the father, I said, look, your child is on the list of those who are earning NELFON support. He said he's not aware and he pays his bills to the student. I said, okay, then your student is not honest. I mean, your child is not honest. You better go and train him well so that he can disclose to you his sources of money, and not for him to collect NELFON money and go and buy a new telephone and then that is it and you continue paying. That money is given for you to be supported in raising your child and for him to concentrate on his studies. So we have all these kind of issues, but I can assure you, like I've said, and I will continue to say it, I've said it severally on several occasions, that NELFON is one of the most important, impactful programs of government in recent years in this country. As a student, I enjoyed scholarship. But I know that from the state government then, I know that today many of my students don't have any connection with their state governments. And the state governments do not care to bother to see how the students are faring in the various universities. So with NELFON, things have become easier, things have become better, and the universities are more peaceful, at least on the front of the students. Because hunger, aggression, and poverty are factors that sometimes agitate the students to go on unnecessary rampage. You could see what is happening on our campus today. There is more peace with the student than you have on the other side. So we have more strikes than having more students' complaints. So these are things that are helping us to be able to have peaceful campuses, have community, improve the economy of the communities as well as the economy of families and economy of individuals. Then there is an issue also, Comrade Sani Sule raised earlier on, about students who have graduated and their names are still appearing. I know in my university, we have returned the monies of students that have graduated to NELFON, and they have the records. So again, it depends on the diligence of the various universities. At least the monies that we have, we cannot so pretend how the monthly stipends are paid to the students, but the ones that come through the universities, wherever we know that a student has graduated, I think our duty is to ensure that the money is appropriately returned to NELFON for others to benefit, not for those that have graduated.
Professor Pate, thank you very much again. Let me quickly get to Rashidat. And I'm wondering, as an advocate in your advocacy work, did you find any specific support that female students might need to enable them, apply for these NELFON loans?
Well, in the case of the female students, I think most of them have an issue from the family, their parents. See, I think there was this day I asked a girl to apply for the loan, and she said, no, she called her dad, and he asked her, am I not giving you all you need? Is it not enough for you? But she feels it's not enough. She feels she wants to also assist them, but he refused. He refused her applying for this loan. I feel we have to go back to the family. We have to go back to the parents to tell them, okay, allow your girl child, apply for this loan. They have to allow the female to go out, apply for the loan, and get this loan also. I think that's all in that aspect.
For that. Okay, let's get back to Sonny Sule now. Sonny, you said earlier that you are done with your program, and my question would be, how do you intend to look at the repayment plan of the loan? What's your take on that? Let's look at it first.
So thank you very much. I believe it is simple. Since Nel Fund is very fair, considering the fact that, as Rashida earlier mentioned, this issue of, because I have to convince so many parents, because most of them are not even enlightened on the issue of Nel Fund. You see, this repayment issue of Nel Fund, the last time we had this, like a seminar with the DG of Nel Fund, you are going to start repaying this Nel Fund loan after you get a job. And it is even said that if somebody died, we are not hoping that nobody is holding him accountable for it. So I think it is a very flexible way. You understand? And I am hoping that I will start repaying my loan, because this NEL fund has helped and have supported us in so many ways. So we'll make sure that we are diligent, and we'll make sure that we pay back, so that our younger ones will also benefit from this. Because as a good citizens, you have to hold an obligation. The state have given you something, and you have to return it in return, so that the younger generation will also benefit from it. So we have all the possible intention to pay for it the moment we are settled and we have something that will bring something to the table.
All right, okay. Do you want to read out some
all
of the
right.
questions?
I think a lot of messages have come in from the viewers. Let me begin from this one, from Kasim from Kurudu Police Housing. Could there be space or flexibility for civil servants to acquire study loans too? Okay. And from Jibrin, Ibn Jibrin, a very laudable program, very impactful indeed. What is on ground to include postgraduate students? We wish the Executive Secretary, CEO, all the very best. MD, you mean?
Yeah, MD.
And then from Bolaji in Lokoja, good morning. Are there universities not eligible for these students' loans? Because my friend is at the verge of dropping out due to lack of sponsorship. And we both checked and saw that Federal University Lokoja is not eligible. I think the MD will address this one. And from John here in Abuja, good morning, Nigeria. My challenge and question is University of Abuja not among the schools to benefit? Are spillover students not qualified to apply for this loan because it came as at when they have spillover? What's the fate of the student whose name is not even captured on the school portal due to the school information management system? I'm trying to apply as one of the spillover students, but it's not going. And finally, from my end, Bella Samuel says, good morning, discussants, NTA. Some instructions are yet to release. I think she meant institutions are yet to release their admission lists. The NELFON portal, when opened, should be allowed to remain so that students yet to be admitted will also benefit. Yet to be admitted? Perhaps you want to react to some of these before we take the next round.
Okay, so I wonder how many of them I can remember. But, you know, I think, let me quickly address one issue.
We've talked about postgraduate students, spillover students.
Yes, okay. So, again, with these types of schemes, you have a limited amount of funding. And you have to make certain decisions as to those you want to fund. We took a decision that we want to fund those who are getting into institutions for the first time, who are in institutions doing a first degree, if you like. Because there's a real risk that if you start to stretch this beyond that, you will run out of funds. And if you run out of funds, you will end up in a situation where you funded people to go and do PhDs, and you no longer have the funds to fund those who want to do a first degree. So it's about priority. And I think over time, because the law doesn't limit us on this, over time we'll begin to stretch. As we get more investment in, as we get more funding in, we'll be able to stretch this to those types of students. In terms of spillover, the same answer applies. We want to, this is not a scholarship. It doesn't test your capacity before you can get it. However, what we need to avoid is funding over and over again people who take the loan, and the terms are very soft, so it's easy to do your 100 level 4 times, right? We don't want to fund that. We want to get people, we want to fund people who can get to a point where they get a qualification which becomes useful to them and to society. So we're not, you know, this is not a traditional loan in the sense that I'm eligible, let me just apply. We're also looking at this and saying, how does it impact the totality of the people?
And then university is not on the list. Somebody mentioned University of Abuja of all places, and then Federal University Lokoja.
Yeah, very interesting that, because we've given money to Federal University Lokoja and we've given money to University of Abuja on behalf of students. We have evidence that we've paid them. What is happening is that we're moving into a new session. The schools have to upload, the institutions have to upload a new list for us to say these are the students who are no longer here. These are the ones that are still here, and this is the level that they're at. These are the ones that have come in. Once that list is uploaded, students will be able to see their institution on the portal. We've closed at the moment, and institutions are uploading. If the list isn't there, and you go and check, you won't find your institution. So it's a question of, once the lists have been uploaded, you can then apply. For those who can't find it, it's because the institution hasn't yet uploaded their list. And it's not because they don't want to. Some of them are still compiling. They're not being difficult. It's just that you have to give time for the institutions to adjust and put up. But those two institutions, Federal University of Lokoja, University of Abuja, somebody sent me a message in the middle of the night saying Lautech in Obumashaw is not listed. And well, we've paid these institutions millions and billions. So who did we pay? So they're there. It's just a question of us just educating people that if your institutional listing is not there, you won't find your name.
Is it possible that you publish the list of the universities that have benefited, that you've disbursed a loan to?
We do that every day.
Okay.
Every single day, when we receive acknowledgement from institutions, we publish it. We make disbursements and announcements. Doing a list every day might be difficult because some days the list hasn't changed from one day to the next.
Probably you just need to update.
Well, yes, but publishing it every day is probably not practical. Okay. However, we do intermittent publications to say these are the institutions we've paid. We're accountable. We have to do that anyway, and it's part of our discussion earlier about transparency, trust, honesty. We are very, very transparent about who we've paid. But it doesn't necessarily address the question that the person was asking. The question is, they go to the portal, they can't find the name of their institution. The reason they can't find it there is because the institution hasn't yet uploaded. So they make the assumption that the institution is not there. We just need to educate people that the fact that the name of your institution isn't there doesn't mean that they're not eligible. You perhaps need to go back to the institution and say, when are you going to upload?
Okay, thank you very much. When we come back, we're still going to talk more on the repayment, method and your plan for the future plan for Nelfon. So stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, and the discussion is still on the Nelfon, that is student loan. The MD is still with us. We still have the vice chancellors and the students who have benefited from this loan. So we still want to read out some of the comments that we received from some of our viewers, comments and questions, so that our guest here can respond to them. Now, this is from Aminat from Ogba, Lagos. She says, I want to know more about the student loan application. This one's from Abdul Ibrahim Iyagi from Lafia. It says, good morning, Nigeria. Please, what is the hope for students who are anticipating admission into government tertiary institutions for the 2025-2026 academic session? Are there still chances for their eligibility? This one is, could Nelfon please look into Ekiti State? There are a lot of allegations that the loan scheme doesn't exist there. We need your help, please. That's from Amen Prince. Amen Prince is from Ekiti State. Omo Gege from Lagos. If a student takes this loan, graduate but doesn't get a job, how does the government plan to make them repay, or are they guaranteed jobs? This from Mohammed Awal Musa Alfama from Kano. I believe the student loan in Nigeria is going to be sustainable, accountable, and available to all interested students. What happens to postgraduate students in relate to Nelfon loan? I think you've answered that. Is Nelfon also considering students who are studying under Able DLC? I don't understand that. Okay, this one is from Abdul Ibrahim Iyagi. Please, what is the hope for students who are anticipating admission into government tertiary institutions? I think we've had that one before. Engineer Akeju Olagbaju says, good morning and thanks for the informative discussion. We welcome the idea of nail form, but it is important that it shouldn't be considered as alternative to bursary. Every state government must make bursary available to students to ease financial burden. Finally, a minimum of 3 years is ideal for moratorium. And this is from, this one says, hello NTA, my name is Francis Etim. I'm a student of Bayero University, online university in US, studying tourism, hospitality. My location is Uyo in Akwa Ibom State. Does the students loan cover online students with universities like National Open University and so on?
And I have two more just before he responds. This
So
one
that we
is
don't
asked,
cram everything
Just two.
together.
Let's go.
Okay.
We'll go.
Just
But you
to-
may need to remind me of some of the
okay.
questions.
this one is asking whether foreign students are in the scheme.
Yeah.
That's from Mr. Samuel Shego. I think it means international students. And then, good morning, sir. Thanks for your good work. Please be informed that my child, who is a 200 level medical student at the Edo State University, Yamo, has been asked to leave the hostel because of non-disbursement of the NEL fund. Please assist. This is from Benin in Edo State. Sure.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So I think the best way for me to address this is just to give a very quick presentation
Okay.
on how the scheme works.
Okay.
From cradle all the way through to the end. So essentially, students who want to apply for this loan go to a portal, www.nelf.gov.ng. When they get there, they find there are a number of eligibility requirements. So they need to have a national identity number. So you have to be Nigerian. Foreign students are not included. You have to have access to the institution using JAMB, because we have to set some sort of standard. You have to be in an institution or about to be admitted into an institution. So you either have a matriculation number if you're already there, or you have a registration number which the portal only for early students, for freshers, will accept an admission number or the JAM registration number instead of the matriculation number, because we know you haven't matriculated yet. You need to be banked, because there's the option for taking upkeep. Everybody must have a BVN. They must have a bank account in a proper bank in Nigeria. I say proper bank, not a fintech bank, a proper bank in Nigeria, because of the issues around us paying them. Moving forward, when they apply for the loan, they check that the data that has been provided to us, because they can't even get to that point unless that data is there, but they should just check that the fees that they're supposed to be paying as loaded onto the site is the actual fee they need to be paying, because they're eligible to pay that back. They need to remember that the course level, the faculty, the institution, they need to confirm all of that and then sign the terms and conditions and apply for the loan. It is only when they've applied for the institutional loan that they have the option, in that instant, to apply for the upkeep. You know, you can only book a seat on a bus if you've bought the ticket to be on the bus. Okay, so that's how that particular thing works. Now, moving forward to repayment. The repayment is only required for discussion 2 years after NYSC has been completed. So, year one, we expect year one after NYSC has been completed, you may need it to look for a job. You may even need the second year to look for a job. There aren't very many jobs around at the moment. The government's working hard to create jobs and to create an environment for jobs. But year one, year two gives you that breathing space. Even if you have a job in that time, you're not obliged to start paying back. You may have other debts to settle. Year three, we want to know whether you've got a job or not. If you've got a job, your employer, who by then will have to check on a list to see whether you have a loan, will be obliged to start paying back the Nigeria Education Loan Fund. 10% of whatever your income is. 10% of your income, not 10% of the loan owed, 10% of your income, regardless of what you owe. So, and that only carries on as long as you're earning. If you're not earning, if you lose that job, if you resign, if you, whatever, you will not pay back. So this is tied strictly to income, and it's tied to the employer making the repayment, except in one instance, if you're self-employed. If you're self-employed, you have to self-declare and make those payments yourself. the employer who doesn't remit and the self-employed person who doesn't remit can be prosecuted, because we have to get some of those funds back in. In terms of how this is going to run, because there may be questions around how sustainable is this process. The law allows us to raise funds. It allows us to invest the funds we have. We're also looking at ways of bringing in the private sector to ensure that this goes beyond government. Because if you want something to be sustainable, if you look at any sustainable program, whether it's telecoms or the oil sector, any sector you look at in this country that has been running for years or intends to be around for years must have private sector input, not just money, input, governance. They need to be part of this. And I'll tell you, the private sector is already paying fees for a lot of people. Your private sector, we're all private sector. We're all putting our hands in our pockets and paying for people. Nelfund has provided a platform, an equitable platform for people to be able to bring their funds, put it there, and disperse it. As long as we remain transparent and honest and trustworthy, you will see that grow and grow. We've had a number of industrialists approach us already to say, we'll put money and distribute it through your platform. Okay? So that's how the scheme works at the moment. Mr. Sani said earlier that if in the event of death, because in certain religions you can't die owing, in the event of death, the loan is totally forgiven. So that's essentially that. Postgraduate, I think we dealt with earlier. I'm not sure what
about students of National Open Universities?
Right. Thank you. That was a great question. We only fund full-time on-site courses. Okay? Again, you know, if we decide to fund everybody that's doing an online course, we'll run out of money really quickly. You have to be committed to education. Please don't get me wrong. The fact that you're doing an online course doesn't mean you're not committed to education. But the full commitment is that you have almost given up everything else. You know, you could be doing an online course and have a part-time job. Nothing wrong with that. But people who are in institutions learning generally don't have any other source of income. So we're a little bit biased towards those people. And I think rightly so.
In repayment, for instance, are there not gaps? I'm looking at the 2 years, for instance, that you give to enable people get jobs. What of the person who doesn't do NYSC? What of the person who leaves the country afterwards? What of the person who, you know, moves on to other things? And then how do you track all of this beyond the school years?
Sure. So remember that people are applying for these loans electronically. Tracking is the least of our problem. We push a button and we'll tell you where you are. We'll tell you where you are, at least in the life cycle of your relationship with us. Having said that, NYSC is required by law. If people leave the country, this is not a slave contract. You can't take this loan and then we say you can't go to Canada because you've taken a loan from us. It's not a slave contract. We expect people to behave responsibly. We expect them to behave responsibly. That doesn't mean everybody will. But you heard Mr. Sani saying earlier, he's graduated and he's already thinking about paying it back. You will always have those who don't want to pay. The other thing I should make clear is that we said 2 years after NYSC, people can pay their loan back the day they graduate. They can pay their loans back as they are studying. So there are people who will come and say, look, I've got the money now. I want to liquidate this loan now. My uncle in such and such a place sent me a handful of dollars or naira or whatever. I want to liquidate the loan. We're going to get that. But all of these things are tied to patriotism, nationalism, honesty, good morality, and so forth. It was interesting. There was Professor Pate said something about people not telling their parents about the loan. And ordinarily you think, how dishonest of a student not to tell their parents. But then we heard Rashidat say something else. Rashidat said, when one student told her parent, the parent said, don't take it. And here's a child in need. These are some of the dilemmas.
No, but the parents also feels they are given enough.
Yeah, so there are some of the dilemmas that, you know, you can't capture easily. You know, by the time that young girl tells her friend that my father said I shouldn't take the loan, her friend is not going to tell her father.
I think
and it's not because she's dishonest.
This boils down to the issue of having proper understanding of how the law works. Maybe the parents need to be carried along. But let's
the students should also know that they will pay it.
Yes, let's come to Professor Haruna now, because we're about running off this conversation because of time. We're looking at the collaboration of universities with NEL Fund, how you disburse this loan, and what can be done as we move forward to enhance student access to this loan. And is there any way universities are also trying to educate not only the student but the parents concerning the issues that have been raised today?
Well, as we started earlier, I think Nelfan is not more than 2 years old.
Yes.
Good. And this kind of conversation we are having and the challenges we have observed, these are the triggers which leads us to more discussions to areas where we need to educate more. I know we had a very robust discussion at the National Universities Commission where, when there were allegations and things of this nature, you see, this was one area where we enlightened, and you see, after the enlightenment, you see, things died down. We in the university's Committee of Vice Chancellors, we have our General Assembly. And in the General Assembly, we do also invite key stakeholders to speak to us. That's when all the Vice Chancellors come. And I'm sure he is on the line. We have not yet brought him in, but there are other stakeholders, with whom we work. We bring them in and to educate our Vice Chancellors, and there they ventilate the issues which they have. I don't run a university, so some of the teething problems inside the universities, only the Vice Chancellors can speak about them. So orientation and sensitization is what we try to do. And I can tell you this is one of the best programs which we have been involved in trying to educate Nigerians, to educate students, to educate parents, to educate university administrators. We have a training institute. I have already put a request. It may not have gone to his table, where we will get the resource person who will be a lecturer in our own training institute. Okay. That is the Committee of Vice Chancellors. All the agencies, we are doing that. Some we have already started using them. Okay. Yes. So sensitization is what we are doing, and this is one of the best policies of government that we are 100% supporting, and we try to enlighten people to remove suspicion, because this is program on trust. Okay. And I think when you collect a loan, I think the best thing you can have is pay it off and have a peace of mind. So right. Trust, confidence, and government has done this. What I can simply say, let state governments see what the federal government has done. And key in.
Okay.
It will help.
Thank you.
So that people will not just see like money is being doled out only from Abuja. No, there are a lot of resources at the state level, even at the local government level.
Thank you, Professor Haruna. As we round off this conversation, Professor Patti, you have long been an advocate of education as a tool for social mobility. And I ask, is the NEL Fund loan or disbursements, does it have the potential of bridging the class gap in Nigeria's education sector?
Thank you very much. Yes, I agree with you perfectly that education is one of the mechanisms for ensuring equity, justice, and peace in every society. And NELFON is one agency that is out to support access to education by the disadvantaged in Nigeria. And you could see how the stipends being given are restoring hope in our students, as well as increasing the number of students who are enrolling, because they are sure that somebody somewhere will be able to support their charges. Not only that, NELFON can also promote national integration in Nigeria. Now, someone from Gombe, for example, could secure admissions in University of Ibadan, University of Lagos, or elsewhere without any fear that if he goes to Lagos, he may not be able to pay his fees, or he may not be able to be supported for him to be able to bear the cost of staying in Lagos. NELFON is there to support. So in totality, NELFON is extremely important in our national diversity because it's promoting education that can enhance access to everybody. So my only appeal with the MD here is for universities like our own that have reopened and our students are hanging around waiting for nail phone fee to be paid to us so that they could register. Please hasten the process so that we can start our semester immediately. The strike is over and we are hoping that it will be over this week and then things will be okay. But I assure you that this is one policy the universities are grateful for, the students are grateful for, and the parents are also grateful for. It is impactful, and we hope it will be sustained like the Secretary General called, that it will be a sustainable action, and others, particularly in the private sector, will also see reason to invest in it.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Pate. Thank you so much for your concluding thoughts there. Let's just get a concluding word from Rashidat.
30
seconds. As a student leader, how do you hope to galvanize, your members to, partake of this loan? Okay, so let's come back to the studio. Well, your parting shot.
My parting shot is, first of all, to say that what a great privilege it is for Nigerians to have the opportunity of a program like this. I think the President Tinubu, should be commended for this. It's a very brave initiative. It's not one that brings immediate returns, given the democratic cycle being so short, but it's one that portends well for the future of this country. I also want to say that this discussion, Professor Haruna, Professor Pate, the students, it shows you the quality and the interest that we have in this country. I'm very excited to be, and honored actually, to be in a panel discussion with people with such great thought leadership. And I thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you very much. Akintunde Sawyer, Managing Director, Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund. We thank you very much for your time and your thoughts on the program. Let me also thank Professor Andrew Haruna, Secretary, Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities, and President, Nigerian Academy of Letters. We thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you very much.
Professor Pate, Professor Umar Pate is Vice Chancellor of Federal University, Kashere in Gombe. And also my President, President Society for Nigerian Broadcasters. We thank you very much for your time and your perspectives, as always.
Thank you very much.
All right, and Comrade Sule Sani Sule is a youth activist and student leader. He joined us via Zoom from Zaria. We thank you very much for your contribution. We also thank Rashidat Mohammed Nasir, a student of Department of Political Science at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Many thanks for bringing your perspectives. We thank you very much, gentlemen and lady. And that's the show. Good Morning Nigeria returns same time tomorrow. I'll be here to be with you as well. We'll see you again then. My name is Victor Azu. Bye-bye.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. Thanks for staying with us. Do have a fabulous day.